Welcome back, Finer Things Club League owners. This is it. We have a new champion, one that will be talked about for years to come, as we had determined it in a way that I'm not sure has ever happened before, but a champion nonetheless. Congratulations, Jordan Smithline, owner of Somehow I Manage, pulls off the victory over JT's They Call Me Toby, and we are here to discuss that matchup and all of the 2022 Fantasy Football Finer Things Club season. But before we do anything else, as always, let's get into that rundown one last time for the 2022 season, shall we?
Do you have a rundown that I could take a look at just so I know what type of rundown you're looking for?
Just keep it simple.
Keeping it simple, that's what I'm doing. But I am working hard on this one, real hard.
You're working hard on this?
No, not too hard, not harder than I should.
Right. I mean, why work harder than you should?
No,
All right, let's get into it. Somehow I Manage pulls off a narrow victory after a player nearly dies on a football field in Cincinnati, Ohio, and in no joking manner, a game cut short after a player's life was in danger. Somehow I Manage, JT's They Call Me Toby, get together to determine an outcome of our championship matchup, and it was a very cordial, respectful, classy move and a decision both decided to make to end the game as is after Monday night's abrupt dismissal and potential dismissal of the Monday Night Football matchup. Somehow I Manage beats They Call Me Toby 155.3 to 153.4 in a narrow 2-point victory for Jordan's Somehow I Manage. Jared Goff getting the start over Derek Carr and Daniel Jones. It turns out to be a fine one, even though Daniel Jones getting 36 points on the bench. Jared Goff has a good game, putting up 22 points on the day. James Conner, a steady contributor of Somehow I Manage all season long, with 14 points. Saquon Barkley has a bit of a disappointing matchup, a disappointing day this week, 7.3 points. Chris Godwin, 9 catches, 120 yards, and a 2-point conversion, does lose a fumble with 20 points. Amari Cooper shining, his top scorer in his lineup, 27.5 points, does it only on 3 catches, but for 105 yards and 2 tutties. 3 receptions, 2 of them for touchdowns, 27.5 points for Amari Cooper. TJ Hawkinson putting up 12.9 points. Josh Jacobs leaves, then comes back to the team in another trade right before the playoffs. 17 carries, 69 yards, a touchdown, 4 catches, 26 yards in the air, 19.5 points. Mike Williams, you weren't sure what he was going to do or what he was going to get, puts up a good game, 16 points on the day. And his kicker turns out to potentially be a great game-winning kicker. Matt Prater, 4 of 5 on field goals, 1 of them over 50, and 1 extra point. On JT's side, Justin Fields, 16 points. Not able to start Jalen Hurts as he sat out for an injury. Justin Fields only passes for 75 yards, although does throw a touchdown, rushes for 132 yards, but then does lose a fumble. Devontae Adams losing his mind, 7 catches, 153 yards, and 2 tutties. 2 catches over 40 yards, 1 of them being a touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the freshly acquired on the back half of the season receiver, only 10 points on the day. Devonta Smith heating up in the back half of the season, 20.5 points. Mark Andrews goes 9 catches, 100 yards, 19 points. Brandon Ayuk, 9 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown. And finally, his kicker, Cameron Dicker, with 8 points. It's not good enough, as Joe Mixon needed 3.5 points to seal the victory for They Call Me Toby, and the game against the Buffalo Bills cuts short halfway through the first quarter. Mixon only gets 2 carries for 12 yards during that time. It's not enough. 155.3 to 153.4, and that is our final rundown. All right, let's talk about this matchup. This matchup started with a 3.5 point spread favoring They Call Me Toby. Sleeper had this projected actually to be a much larger margin of victory. It did narrow, and the odds maker at the Finer Things Club brought it down all the way to 1.5 throughout the week. It turns out to be a very close spread, as they knew what potentially was coming down the road. Let's talk about some of the guys who helped not only this matchup but for the season. Jared Goff, the starting quarterback for the championship team. If you would have told any of us that Jared Goff would carry a team to a championship, we all would have told you that something super went weird. It turns out it didn't. In fact, Jared Goff will finish the season as a QB1, number 10 overall, puts up 22 points in the final matchup, going 21 of 29 for 255 yards, 3 touchdown passes, no turnovers. Jared Goff was huge. He was, fortunately, getting the win a bit bailed out as his other quarterback, another surprise on the season, Daniel Jones, having the best game of his career, 36 fantasy points, finishes the week as QB2, finishes the season QB8 overall, as Daniel Jones and Jared Goff finished 10 and 8 on the season as QBs. Unbelievable. Another contributor that did not get near enough attention all season long, and that is James Conner. Jordan Smithline traded James Conner on November 16th of last season for a 23 first. In return, he got a guy who this year only missed 3 games, and missing 3 games finished the running back 16 on the season. That is quite impressive, getting 14 points on the day. That is a solid contribution from your running back. Saquon does disappoint a bit, only getting 58 yards rushing, negative 5 yards receiving, does get 2 catches to offset that negative receiving yardage, but projected to score 16, only putting up 7. He was carried, however, by his receivers. Chris Godwin with 20 points, getting 9 catches on 9 targets for 120 yards. And Amari Cooper, the highest scoring Somehow I Manage player, 3 catches for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. A very odd stat line. But let's look at Amari Cooper for a second. You want to talk about underappreciated? Jordan traded Josh Jacobs and a 24-second in November of this year, literally 2 months ago, not even, for Amari Cooper, Jalen Warren, and a 24th third. Now, he would trade for Josh Jacobs later on, shortly after that, but in the process, picks up Amari Cooper. Guys, Amari Cooper this year was traded by the Dallas Cowboys before the season for like a ham sandwich and a bag of chips. Amari Cooper finishes the year a wide receiver 1, number 10 overall in PPR leagues, which is the only way to play fantasy football. That is unreal. I would have never believed you that Jacoby Brissett quarterback team would have given Amari Cooper the number 10 wide receiver on the year, but he finishes number 10 on the year and puts up in a championship matchup 27.5 points. Let's talk about his other starting wide receiver, though, shall we? DK Metcalf, 6'5", 250. Run a 4.3. Runs down everyone in the league. Built like a god. 1 catch on 5 targets for 3 yards. What is you doing, baby? Almost ruins the program this week. DK Metcalf completely bailed out as he gets 1.3 points on the day. Certainly was heading for ruin the program territory. TJ Hawkinson, though, another steady contributor. Tight end 2 on the season. What? That's right. TJ Hawkinson finishes number 2 behind, obviously, Travis Kelce on the season. TJ Hawkinson has been a mainstay on Jordan's team as he has been there for a couple years now. 12.9 points, exactly what you want from your tight end in a fantasy championship matchup. Josh Jacobs, we've been talking about this guy all season long. Running back 3 on the season. Josh Jacobs was traded back to Jordan from Kyler back in early December. Jordan traded Kadarius Toney, Treylon Burks, Rashad White, a 24 first and a 25 second for Chris Godwin and Josh Jacobs. Those 2 guys were instrumental in his championship run. It was a trade well worth it. Josh Jacobs, 19.5 points in the championship week. Again, finishes RB3 on the year, number 10 overall of all football players in fantasy football. This guy was a monster this year. His stretch in the middle of the season went something like this: 13 points, 35 points, 30 points, 36 points, 7, 11, then 22, 20, 50, 20, 19, 12, 6, and 19 and a half. Impressive run of a season for Josh Jacobs. Mike Williams, the very definition of boomer bust, got the boom this week, 16.4 points. And Matt Prater, potentially the unsung hero, number 28 kicker on the year, was a nobody. Missed games this year for an injury, was streamed in a championship matchup and gets 14 points. Are you kidding me? He's actually scored 14 points 3 weeks in a row now and scored 14 back in week 3. Matt Prater, a huge move for Jordan's Somehow I Manage. On to They Call Me Toby. Let's talk about maybe what potentially went wrong here. We've got to start with the obvious, which is Joe Mixon at running back. Joe Mixon, and we've talked about it at length, and we're going to talk about it in just a minute, traded by Jordan to They Call Me Toby with David Montgomery and Josh Palmer for Saquon and Courtland Sutton back before the season started. Joe Mixon this year was an RB1, technically an RB2 in our league as he was running back 12, but having a really good season, only missing 2 games on the year. Joe Mixon obviously scoring the least amount this season with 1.2 points as the game was cut short. But let's also talk about the decision that he had to make starting Justin Fields. Now, Justin Fields, fortunately, has worked out, but it was a big question mark going into the season. Now, JT, They Call Me Toby, has 2 incredibly amazing dual threat quarterbacks, but Jalen Hurts sits the bench as he is out, leaving him no choice but to start Justin Fields. He does get 16 points from him, but Leonard Fournette's magic, I think, dried out as he got the 26 points last week from Leonard Fournette, only getting 8 this week. Devontae Adams, though, has just completely lost his mind the last few weeks, putting up 39 back in week 13, 33 back in week 11, and 37 this week. Went off for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns along with 7 catches. He's been huge for him this year. Devontae Adams finishes wide receiver 3 and number 9 overall in fantasy football. Age 30 now and shows no sign of stopping. It will be really interesting to see what happens with him next season and beyond. Amon-Ra St. Brown, a guy that JT traded for back on December 6th, picking up Freiermuth and St. Brown and a 23 fourth, giving up Kyle Pitts, Michael Carter, a 23 first, and a 24 first. So quite a haul for Kyler, but losing Amon-Ra St. Brown. St. Brown finishes wide receiver 7. That's right, 7 on the season. However, the 10 points that he scored this week, the lowest he scored since week 9 on the season, only scoring less than that 3 times this year. So disappointing performance for Amon-Ra St. Brown, but a huge get, and of course very young, so the future is very bright there for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Devontae Smith is another guy, wide receiver 9. Are you seeing a trend? These two guys deserve to be in the championship, having guys who are wide receiver and running back top 10 players. Wide receiver 9 for Devontae Smith, not missing a single game this season, putting up 20.5 on the championship matchup. Mark Andrews finishing tight end 3 behind Hawkinson, who is Jordan's tight end, has a really good season, really struggled down the stretch as Lamar Jackson was out with an injury. Tyler Huntley obviously not helping his cause, but does finally put up a big number during the championship matchup. The one disappointment and the one guy that you can look to and the one guy that we will look to has ruined the program on this title run for JT is David Montgomery, putting up 5.6 points on the day. It's simply not going to get it done as he needed more than that. Not much more, but he needed more. David Montgomery has only scored less than that 2 other times this season, so super disappointing. He didn't have a bad matchup. He certainly didn't have an elite type of matchup, but Detroit Lions defense was ran all over the week before, so that is a huge disappointment for They Call Me Toby. And Brandon Ayuk, again, another guy where the future is really, really bright. Only in the league 2 years now. Wide receiver 17, a touchdown scoring machine, 26.7 points on the day. These two teams are poised to contend for a title for years to come, as they both have really strong talent, but also really young talent. We didn't even mention the fact that Jordan Somehow I Manage has Derrick Henry on his bench. Kenneth Walker sat the bench this game. Hunter Renfrow, I believe, will return to relevance next season as well. Cortland Sutton is on his bench. I mean, the future is bright. Daniel Jones is there. Rashad Bateman was on IR. And then you look over on JT's side. The guy has Isaiah Likely handcuffed his tight end, Mark Andrews, along with Pat Freiermuth. Dameon Pierce is on IR. Trey Lance is on IR. This guy is a dual threat quarterback garage, as Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance all reside on They Call Me Toby. Chris Olave sat the bench this week. These guys have real players, elite talent in all the positions, and they're quite young. So the future is bright for both of these teams. Congratulations, JT, going from 2-13 to finishing second place in the Finer Things Club, finishing in the playoffs, making a title run, and coming 2 points short. And who knows what would have happened had that game on Monday night played all the way out. And Jordan Smithline, back-to-back seasons of making a championship game, losing the same matchup by 3 points last year to Kyler's Bums from the Dock, coming back with a vengeance, calling it on his interview on Media Week, saying that he was going to win. He calls a shot. He does get redemption and picks up the win. Congratulations. You are the 2022 Finer Things Club champion.
What you people don't know about business, I could fill a book with.
Then do it.
What?
Write a book.
The Fundamentals of Business by Michael Scott. Over 1 billion sold. More than the Bible. I'm not surprised. Chapter 1. The businessman.
Daryl. Hey. I would like to give you the only copy of Somehow I Manage, unfinished. If there's anybody here who can finish it, it's you.
That's sweet, Mike. Let's see here. Here's a chapter called Gum with one sentence. Everybody likes the guy who offers them a stick of gum.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm all the way up. I'm all the way up.
One last time for the All the Way Up segment of the recap. Somehow I Manage is the ultimate all the way up, as he is the champion, scoring the most points of all the relevant matchups this week, which is only one. And that is the matchup for first place. We just talked about his scores, but did want to do the segment one last time before heading into the individual leaders for the 2022 season for the Finer Things Club Dynasty League. And so for this one, instead of doing the weekly leaders, we will do the season leaders. That's right, the top 3 leaders of each position for the 2022 season from weeks 1 through 17. Starting, as we always do, at the quarterback position, Patrick Mahomes, leading not only all quarterbacks but all fantasy football players for 2022 season, weeks, again, 1 through 17 of the fantasy football season. 423 points on the year. That is almost 40 more points than the second player, which is Josh Allen, Prison Mike's quarterback. Nate's Jans Can's quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, in the number 1 spot. Number 2 is Prison Mike, Matt Washawn's quarterback, 384 points on the season. And a bit of a surprise if you'd have told us at the beginning of the season who number 3 would be. It is Jalen Hurts, JT's quarterback. They call me Toby, quarterback. Jalen Hurts, 379 points, and that is missing the last 2 weeks. So no doubt if he had played either of those weeks, he would have at least passed Josh Allen. But he didn't. He's number 3 on the season, beating out Joe Burrow. Number 1 running back. This should come as completely no shock to anybody. Nate Hyde's Jans Cans getting the number 1 quarterback in fantasy football this season. Also getting the number 1 running back this season in Austin Eckler, scoring 362 points in our league. Surpassing the number 2 running back by 22 points, and that is Christian McCaffrey, Lance's Prince family paper running back, at 340 points. And again, I think we all knew this guy had the talent and the potential, but just wasn't utilized his whole career. A bit of a surprise just because of his previous 3 seasons in the league. Josh Jacobs, Jordan's Somehow I Manage running back, number 3 on the season, passing over guys like Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, who are also Jordan's Somehow I Manage running back, the number 3, 4, and 5 running back on the season in our league, all belonging to Jordan's Somehow I Manage. On to wide receiver. Number 1 wide receiver this season in the Finer Things Club is Justin Jefferson, my wide receiver captain, bruising wide receiver 1, 366 points, edging out the number 2 receiver, Nate Hyde's Jans Cans, Tyreek Hill. Jans Cans having the number 1 quarterback, the number 1 running back, and the number 2 wide receiver. Tyreek Hill with 352 points. And then not too far behind him is JT's, they call me Toby, wide receiver, Devontae Adams. This is no surprises here. We have Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, and Devontae Adams, complete and total studs, elite wide receivers year in and year out. All 3 guys at some point belonging to Kyler's Bums from the Dock. So that's a tough listen. That's a tough listen for Kyler, I'm sure. Also notable that Stephon Diggs was number 4, so Jans Cans had the number 2 and the number 4 wide receiver this season. On to tight end. The least surprising and most dominant number 1 of any position group, Travis Kelce of the Chiefs, and most notably Lance's Prince family paper, 307 points on the season, almost scoring 100 more points than the second tight end. That is domination if I've ever seen it. TJ Hawkinson at number 2, Jordan's Somehow I Managed tight end, 213 points. And then behind him by a good bit is Mark Andrews at 189 points. That's JT's, they call me Toby. Kyler had the 4th tight end. And Evan Ingram, I know we're only doing top 3, but I had to say Evan Ingram finishes tight end 5 on the season. Now that is a surprise, as Nate Hyde's, James Cann's tight end, Evan Ingram finishing 5th. Last and probably least, kicker. And in fact, we had one top 3 kicker go unowned. He wasn't unowned the whole year, but unowned at the end of the season. But number 1, Jake's Big Boobs, getting a guy in the top 3 finishes of the season. In at the kicker position, Brett Maher, the number 1 kicker in fantasy football, weeks 1 through 17. 156 points, just barely edging out Daniel Carlson of the Raiders, unowned by any team at 150 points. And then 1 point less than Carlson is Justin Tucker, Kyler's bums from the dot kicker, at 149 points. In fact, every kicker between 4 and 7 are unowned, and the number 7 kicker is Nathan Pierce's Justice Beaver kicker, Tyler Bass. I want to also talk a little bit about consistency from the 2022 season, and then we'll wrap things up. We'll go into the greatest hits of the season, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the consistency at the position groups. Most quarterback won games this season, weeks 1 through 17, meaning every team had at least a bye. So the highest amount of games at the QB, RB, wide receiver, tight end 1 spot would be 16 because you had a bye week in one of those weeks. So out of a possible 16 games at a QB1, that means you finished a top 12 each in that week in that position. Patrick Mahomes finished QB1 15 out of a possible 16 weeks this season. Only missed it 1 time. Total consistency and total elite production out of the quarterback position. The next 2 players were at 13 games. That's the next 2 quarterbacks on the year. Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen finished QB1 13 out of 16 games, followed by Joe Burrow at 11, and then 3 more quarterbacks at 10 games. That's Geno Smith, Kirk Cousins, and Trevor Lawrence all finished 10 out of a possible 16 weeks at the QB1 spot. On to running back. Running back has such a fluid, running back and wide receiver for that matter. So we're going to do most running back 1 or 2 games. I mean, you finished in the top 24 running back spots this season out of a possible 16 games. Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler 14 times out of a possible 16 times. Again, elite numbers, elite consistency. Followed by Saquon Barkley with 13 games in the running back 1 or 2 spot. Followed by Josh Jacobs and Nick Chubb, 12 out of a possible 16 games. And then this is where we get a little bit of a surprise, I think, at least, again, before the season started. Derrick Henry, no surprise. Ramondre Stevenson and Leonard Fournette finished 11 times inside the running back 1 or 2 spot of a week. 11 times out of 16 times this season. And then Tony Pollard finished 10 games in the running back 1 or 2 spot this season. On to wide receiver. The most any guy finished in the wide receiver 1 or 2 spot, meaning combined top 24 wide receiver rankings of any given week. Tyreek Hill finished 13 out of a possible 16 times as a wide receiver 1 or 2 on the week, followed by Justin Jefferson with 12 games as a wide receiver 1 or 2. Then A.J. Brown with 11 games as a wide receiver 1 or 2. And then Stephon Diggs and CeeDee Lamb, 10 out of a possible 16 times as a wide receiver, 1 or 2. And then finally, 9 games, Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, and DK Metcalf finished as a wide receiver, 1 or 2 on the week. On to tight end, there's a big drop. Travis Kelce finished 13 times as a tight end 1 this season. It's a little actually surprising. So that means 3 games this year he did not finish as a top 12 tight end. That's a little surprising to me. TJ Hawkinson finished 10 times as a tight end 1. And then Mark Andrews, Pat Freiermuth, 9 times at a possible 16 times this year. And then half the time, Evan Ingram and Zach Ertz finished as a tight end 1. Thank you guys so much for listening to these recaps. I put a lot of time into what you're about to listen to, so I hope you enjoy it. And this is what I'm going to call the greatest hits of the 2022 season of our recaps. It is a bit long, so stay in there. I hope you find this entertaining and a pleasurable listening experience. So stick it out. Enjoy the greatest hits of the 2022 Finer Things Club recap season starting now.
Saints fans, look at them. Looking stupid. Look at that. Looking stupid. Just dumb. Look how bad she looks. Them stupid looking jerseys. Ugly.
Welcome, Finer Things Club owners. We have officially wrapped up the week 1 of the NFL 2022 season, and can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait to do this first recap of the new season. Pumped, stoked. We have real games, real fantasy matchups to discuss, real awards to give out, and some things to talk about. Moving on to the 1 p.m. game, number 9, Nathan Pierce's Knights of the Night going on the road to the number 8 team, DM does GB. And oh no, we have our first 0-2 team as Nathan Pierce's Knights of the Night wallops Jordan Somehow I Manage, formerly known as DM does GB, 164 to 128. Kyler Murray of Nathan Pierce's Knights of the Night has a good game in 25 points. Aaron Jones goes off with a big 32-point game. Tyler Lockett puts up 19 points. Hollywood Brown puts up 12. Amari Cooper, in his debut in Cleveland, puts up 25 points. Darren Waller with 17. And J-Rob of the Jacksonville Jaguars with 15 points. And his kicker, Tyler Bass, puts up 12. Paris Campbell puts up a goose egg. And Cordero Patterson only puts up 4, but it doesn't matter, as he destroys Jordan's team. DM does GB, now Somehow I Manage, as Derek Carr scores 18, almost 19 points. Saquon with almost 12. Mike Williams has a big game on Thursday night, putting up 25 points. Cortland Sutton with 19. Gerald Everett with 13. Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry both score under 10, as Jordan's team really struggled with this week. He having Hunter Renfrow, James Conner, Josh Jacobs, and Derrick Henry all score under double digits. And that is why he moves to 0-2 as we move to the T. And Nathan Pierce gets a huge victory over Jordan's team, who is now the only 0-2 team in the season so far. It's a long season, 2 games in. We have 15 regular season games, so certainly not a time to panic. All right, let's get into these power rankings, shall we? First week, I would say, of the real power rankings. We had to do them for the TV schedule, of course, but now we have some more data to come in, and the first spot, it shouldn't surprise anybody, as Kyler's bums from the dock, the only 2-0 team on the season. He is the number 1 spot in the power rankings, over the number 2 team, and that is right. The number 2 team right now in the power rankings is Nate Hyde's Jan's Cans with a 1-1 record, barely, and I mean barely, edging out Prison Mike, Matt Washon's team, in the number 3 spot. And I am just ecstatic to discuss them, as
The preseason rankings voted on by the Finer Things Club owners revealed that the league overwhelmingly and almost unanimously thought Jake's Big Boobs and Nathan Pierce's Knights of the Night were the two worst teams heading into the season, followed by JT's They Call Me Toby in the 8th spot. Here we are after 3 weeks, and the power rankings, ladies and gentlemen, not done by me, but a powerful algorithm that is untouched and unadulterated from the doings and the goings of Jonathan Black. The number one team after 3 weeks in the Finer Things Club after it runs through the power rankings algorithm, Nathan Pierce's Knights of the Night at 2-1, number one team in the power rankings, followed by JT's They Call Me Toby in the number 2 spot. Let's go. Also 2-1, the top two teams, Nathan Pierce's Knights of the Night, JT's They Call Me Toby.
Wasting everyone's time with stupid and inane accusations.
Interviewer has suspect motives.
Applicant has a head shaped like a trapezoid.
Interviewer has turned off applicant's interest in Cornell, and they are going to go to the vastly superior Dartmouth. Ever heard of it? I think I have.
Really pleased to be welcomed by Kyler to the Sunday night matchup. I didn't know how that was going to go. But, he just wasn't ready. His team wasn't ready for Sunday. They didn't even get 100 points. So after all that talk about Nate.
Yeah, let's talk about that, man. Let's talk.
I was thinking about seeing as our league is office themed. I was thinking about this week before I move on to the rest. And you remember when Stanley took Ryan to the big? It was his first sales call. And he was all excited. I kind of feel like Kyler was Ryan. And I see myself laughing at him like Stanley in the car after the matchup. So that's kind of how I feel right now.
His team Captain Bruisin in number 8, followed by Frank's team Uncle Creepy's in number 9, and then Jordan's Somehow I Manage in the number 10 spot. JT's team, They Call Me Toby, stays in the number 2 spot for 2 straight weeks now. Throw some respect on this man's name at 3-1 and number 2 in the power rankings after he was preseason ranked number 8 in the league. And number 1, a familiar spot as we all put our hands over our faces as we cannot believe that we have to deal with this, as Kyler's team at 3-1, Bums from the Dock, is the number 1 team in the power rankings.
And kind of establishing yourself as a top team again this year.
Yeah. I mean, if we want to talk about the matchup, we can. It's not really, entertainment, I don't think. The bottom 3 team gets beat by the champs. I mean, the same old story, It is what it is. It's really not even worth mentioning. The truth comes out, The ball don't lie, as they say. And you can talk all the trash you want to talk preseason, but rubber hits the road. Where you at, man? You're bottom 3. That's all I got to say about that. Ain't change it. I'm just going to go ahead and say I'm going to win again. It's going to repeat. So,
oh boy,
I don't know.
It's a bold. I guess it's a bold prediction.
Just got to get lucky, right? I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I actually saw that. I looked at that last night. Got the cans coming up. Cans are loaded, right? Them are some loaded cans, and it doesn't get any easier. I think the best team in the league from the beginning. I think that may be reflective. If I'm not giving away too much information here, I think I may have voted Jordan's team as the best team in the league preseason rankings. Just my personal opinion. Still kind of regretting that trade of Saquon and Courtland Sutton, but so that's.
Next to my seats. This is my seat, buddy. He got a 49 jersey on, so we already started opening that can today. Ain't that right? And it looked too easy, too. Yeah, it looked too easy, right? It's going to be easy all day long.
We move on to the big matchup of the week. Number 5, Jan's Cans at 2-3, taking on the number 1 team, JT's They Call Me Toby at 4-1. And did we get a matchup of all matchups? It came down to Monday Night Football. It came down to overtime, and it came down to less than a point. Jan's Cans edges out JT's They Call Me Toby 168.96 to 168.50. Unbelievable. Gets a .46 point victory. Survivor contest. Want to know what you're playing for? Jake, the tribe has spoken. Lance, I'm sorry, the tribe has spoken. Jordan, the tribe has spoken. Struggling to get anything from almost anybody. Naheem Hines, what is you doing, baby? 0 points. Robert Woods, 0 points. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 2.9 points. Alec Pierce, 3.3 points. Only 3 guys scoring double digits. Nathan Pierce, the tribe. Have to say goodbye, so Kyler bums from the dock. The tribe has spoken. Frank, surviving on the insides of a coconut, a couple spoonfuls of rice, and some palm fronds, as Prison Mike has lost 20 pounds since being in the Survivor contest from gritting it out. But this week, it just was too much. Starting Kyron Williams in the flex. What is you doing, baby? 0.3 carries for 9 yards. We talked about how disappointing Michael Pittman's performance was. Jonathan Taylor only 13 points. Jamar Chase comes back, but it's just not enough. Prison Mike, you, sir, have been a true survivor up to this point, but the tribe has spoken.
Last year I felt like I was just one of the guys, if you recall that statement. I think this year I think this year I'm a top tier guy. That's what we're gonna go with.
Okay.
Which is dog mentality, I mean, you look at this team. You got Patrick Mahomes, dog. Stephon Diggs, dog. Tyreek Hill, dog. Allen Lazard, dog. Austin Eckler, dog. I mean,
food like in prison?
Gruel, sandwiches, gruel omelets, nothing but gruel. Plus, you can eat your own hair.
Wow. Prison sounds horrible.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Andy. Thanks.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up.
And at the top of the power rankings by literally a slim margin between him and JT is Nate's Jans Cans, number 1 in the power rankings.
Feed him the rock. Funny story about the Saquon trade is instead of Joe Mixon, I actually had Josh Jacobs in there. JT wanted to switch those 2 guys out. I was like, all right, to give some insight to the trade talks that went on with that. But I've been pleasantly surprised with that.
That's good inside baseball right there. Is this a Michael Scott boom roasted moment here we're about to have?
This is a pure Michael Scott boom roasted moment. So you just say go, and I'll start off.
All right, go for it, man.
All right, let's start with the guy I just beat this past week. JT, your team sucks, and you had to drive 7 hours to the draft for anybody to start liking you. Boom, roasted. Over to Nathan Pierce. Nathan Pierce, your team sucks. You actually like the city of Boston, and your bench always outscores your starters. Boom, roasted. Over to you, JB. Your team sucks. You actually like hurricanes, and you have managed your roster like ingredients into a blender. No one wants Darnell Mooney. Boom, roasted. Over to old Jakey Poo, our favorite. Your team sucks. No one wants your 5 second-round picks for a top 3 player in the league, and I've never seen a few wins go to somebody's head any faster than you. Boom, roasted. Over to Nate. Your team sucks. You wear UGA hats to Braves game. No one on your team is a real dog. That was stupid. And I've never seen a few wins go to somebody's head any faster than you. So forget what I said about the last guy. Boom, roasted. Over to Lance. Lance, your team sucks. You're old, and you're a Falcon season ticket holder. Boom, roasted. Frank.
Oh, God.
Frank, your team sucks. You're the luckiest owner in the league year after year, and you probably yell at people to sit down at Braves games with the UGA hat on. Boom, roasted. over to Kyler, or wait, should I call you Allen? Your team sucks, and I don't know how you managed to inherit a juggernaut of a team and turn it into a spare parts department in less than 18 months. Well done.
Oh,
Boom.
man.
Roasted. And now, last and least, Matt. Your team sucks, Georgia Tech sucks, Breece Hall has weak knees, and you still need to read a book, any book, on proper management skills. Boom. Roasted.
Little shark eats the littler shark, and so on and so on and so on until you get down to the single cell shark. So now, replace sharks with paper companies, and that is all you need to know about business.
Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. All the way up. I'm
All the way up this week is an obvious one, as we have a new team name, and it seems to have inspired a new sense of confidence and performance in his team as Prince Family Paper, formerly known as the Scranton Stranglers. Lance Batiste's team lighting up the scoreboard this week, putting up over 204 points. Tua Tagovailoa with 31, ETN with 26, A.J. Brown and CMC with 40 points apiece. Amazing, and he did all this with 3 players under 10 points. Amazing performance from Prince Family Paper. You, sir, define what it means to be all the way up as you lit the scoreboard up, and your max points for was even higher at 230 points.
No surprise to everyone, you smashed the 195, went over 200 points this week. Did you feel like you had a shot this year? Did you feel like this week you had a chance? Like, what are your thoughts on hitting over 200 points this week? Did you feel like you had it in you?
Oh, absolutely. I always believe in my team. They needed a little bit of motivation. That's why we switched to Prince Family Paper, just because they were playing like Prince Family Paper, and so I had to motivate them a little bit. And I realized when I motivate my team, they do well. I knew CMC. It was just a matter of time before Kyle. It didn't take him long to get CMC involved. Thank you, Nate. I really appreciate that trade because Najee would have been really tough, bro.
Points, which is pretty impressive. You are 5-3, Lance, but you're 5th in the power rankings, and it's starting to become a trend. And it's a head scratch here from you personally. What do you make of the only 5-3 team that low in our league in the power rankings, number 5? What do you think about that? Why do you think that is?
Well, in the game of football, there's analytics guys, and then there's just guys who just get out there and get the job done. And I'll leave it to y'all's analytics, and y'all figure all that stuff out in the power rankings. Because at the end of the year, none of that stuff matters. All that matters is wins and losses, man. And my team doesn't concern itself. We're on to Toby. We're on to They Call Me Toby because I don't worry about any rankings. It never bothers me. I just smile every time because, keep underestimating my team. We good over here. We 5-3. We're tied for first place, basically. So I'm good. Ain't no problem.
Yeah, man.
Uncle Creepies, they always got my number for whatever reason. I just hope I don't meet them again later down the road. James Cans, I actually had him power rankings number 2, and his team got stronger since the first of the year by thanks to Jake and
oh my gosh,
it's the breast connection they got going on. I'm not sure what's happening over there, but they're figuring out a way to work together to make it work, and it's working for them. Well, it's working for
I was gonna say it's working for one of them,
right?
Yeah.
They Call Me Toby, losing 3 straight before this, needing to make a statement, and boy, does he ever. They Call Me Toby, JT's team at 180 points, beating out Prince Family Paper, who puts up a strong performance in his own right at 139. Is not enough to get it done. They Call Me Toby gets the performance probably of the year from his running back, Joe Mixon. 22 carries, 153 yards, 4 touchdowns on the ground, and then 4 catches, 58 yards, and another touchdown in the air, 55.
There is one team now mathematically eliminated as we bid our farewell to the playoff hunt to our first team, and that is Nathan Pearson's Justice Beaver at 2-8 now, officially mathematically eliminated from a playoff spot, according to the tools and the math that I use. I guess maybe there's possibly, I don't think there actually is a chance. So Justice Beaver, I'm sorry to share that news. You've been a trooper this year, and look, if anything is an encouragement to those on the bottom, and I'll even throw myself in there as I'm barely hanging on. We saw Mr. Nate Hides, Jans Cans, put up an embarrassing season in 2021, scoring 43 points in 1 week.
But you made a pretty spicy trade to some in this league. And so before we get into anything else, I wanted to give you the opportunity to maybe talk a little bit about it, or if you choose not to, I respect that as well. But walk us through what you are thinking and what you how you view the trade, particularly between you and Nate this past week.
Well, the trade itself, I think you have to really understand, for one, how do we trade? Well, I talk to people daily almost about trades. It's not just Nate. Almost everyone at some point I'm sending trades to somebody. Now,
yeah, I'm still looking for T. Higgins, by the way. You know, so
a lot of people are. but and the thing is like the conversations as they develop, you can pull a trade out of there. Maybe a trade you didn't think of at first, but a trade that will come. But there's some people on my team that just I don't want to move because starting out the year, my age and I'll preface this with this: y'all were right when y'all unanimously picked me last, and I think y'all were very close to being right. And I knew y'all were right because I pre-ranked myself 8th, and that's where I'm at right now. So, and I knew I wasn't going to be competing. So I have guys on my team that are getting older that I'm like, I can move these for pieces that are younger. I know I can. This is a dynasty league. I can do this, because they're going to be around on my team for a while. So for Diggs, I got Higgins in a second. For Eckler, I got Kamara in a first. For Fournette, I got Gabe Davis in a second. And I completely changed my top 4 wide receivers at the start of the year before the season started. We're almost 30 years old. That's the average age. Now they're at 23.25 years. So with the trade itself, I think a lot of people just got upset with it being Nate. That's on them. We've talked about that, whatever. But I got a guy who's the number 1 wide receiver on the Packers who, Aaron Rodgers is not Aaron Rodgers as he used to be. But I also got 2 picks, and one of them is potentially the 11th pick of the draft this year. So, and I'm looking for running back help. I'm going to keep looking for younger wide receivers. And I've got Javonte Williams on my bench, hopefully when he comes back healthy.
Don't remind me.
So, I mean, I don't think my team's in bad shape when you look at it overall of what I'm trying to do. My goal was to build my wide receivers this year and make them younger, and I've done that, and I'm going to continue to do that because I think guys like Gabe Davis, T. Higgins, George Pickens, who I'm super pumped about, and and Alan Lazard, he's 26. That's my oldest wide receiver. Jordan is my enemy now. But it turns out that Jordan's his own worst enemy. And the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So Jordan's actually my friend, but because he is his own enemy, the enemy of my friend is my enemy, so actually Jordan is my enemy. So
what a great quote.
It's just, that's just how it is. I think a rivalry has blossomed out of all of this. If we can take the positive approach to this, look at what we've created.
Toe-to-toe. Kyler's bumps to the dock, dropping to the lowest spot he's ever been in the power rankings at number 7, also at 5-6. So things are getting real for the reigning defending champion of the Finer Things Club. Kyler desperately needs a win, does get a matchup against Justice Beaver this week. So that is good news, at least for his team. Actually, two teams. Jake's big boobs, Matt Washon's prison Mike, has fallen off the ship, never to return again, as their playoff hopes are finally removed, as those teams now cannot make the playoffs according to the simulation and the playoff odds machine.
To the can boobs, it's kind of hard to beat two owners at once. What country doesn't have two presidents? What boat doesn't set sail with two captains? And what fantasy football team doesn't have two owners? So it's kind of hard to overcome.
Would be the top four teams. How do you see it shaking out? What's your prediction, your take on how the top four teams and eventually a championship, if you had to wager?
So I think the first three spots are pretty much a lock. Nate is like, remember when Dwight was talking about how he absorbed his twin in the womb? Nate Spoon has the strength of a grown man and a baby. So he's outperforming, everyone.
Element, as this week, Kyler's The Cheater Beaters takes another loss, moving to 6-7, and the playoff odds makers have determined that the Cheater Beaters have officially been eliminated from playoff contention. Kyler Parkinson's championship defending run is now over. Sorry to say it. I'm sure there are plenty of people who have opinions, comments, but he did win the championship last year, and now he is officially eliminated from playoff contention. We do have our first 100% playoff odds, and that is Nate Hyde's Jan's Cans. The playoff odds gods, I will call them, have determined that Jan's Cans have officially punched his ticket to the playoffs, as now Uncle Creepy's, They Call Me Toby, Somehow I Manage, Prince Family Paper, and by the seat of his very pants, Captain Bruisin, are still fighting for those last three. I have to give a huge shout out, and I wanted to wait to next week, but I just couldn't, because these two teams last season finished 9th and 10th in the Finer Things Club, and that is Jan's Cans and JT's They Call Me Toby. Last year, JT and Jan's Cans finished 2-13. Jan's Cans was the laughing stock of the league, scoring 43 points in a single week, 1 week, featuring Khalif Raymond on the reg. It was ugly if I had ever seen it. Finished the season with a total 1,564 points. We have 1 week remaining. Jan's Cans already has almost 600 more points than he finished with last season. JT was a little bit of a tough luck loser. Certainly wasn't one of the top teams, but definitely better than his 2-13 record. Is now 9-5. And as we move into this next segment about playoff odds, we now have our 4 playoff teams set as Jan's Cans, Team Uncle Creepy's, Somehow I Manage, and They Call Me Toby are locked in for the top 4 playoff spots in this league. But myself, Jonathan Black, JB, the tribe has spoken. You have to leave. And what does that bring us? That brings us to Survivor. Ladies and gentlemen, Nate Hyde's Jan's Cans is a survivor, and he's going to keep surviving as he not only wins the $100 grand prize this year for the Survivor contest, but he now enters into the playoffs starting the following week.
Welcome back, Finer Things Club League owners. That wraps up our regular season, 15 weeks in the books. So starting with the number 1 and the number 4 team in the seeding, that is Nate's Jans Cans taking on They Call Me Toby in the first round of the playoffs. And let's talk about the matchup, shall we? We have Jans Cans, the number 1 team this season, also finished the league with the most points scored, actually taking on the team with the second most points scored. And so it's unfortunate that those teams now have to play each other in the first round, as Jans Cans, number 1 in points, taking on They Call Me Toby, number 2 in points. Again, the 10-9 teams last season facing off in the first round of the playoffs. Looking really strong heading in. JT did lose this past week, does finish as the 4 seed at 9-6, but to overlook his team would be quite the mistake. He is projected right now, if things were to stay true in both of their lineups, to score 144 points to Jans Cans 160 points. So there is quite a difference there in the projection. On to the other matchup, we have the number 2 and 3 teams, Jordan's Somehow I Managed, facing off against Uncle Creepy's. If the matchup were to be played today, Sleeper projects this one to be much closer than the first matchup, as only 8 points decide the difference between the two. They have Jordan projected at 145, Team Uncle Creepy's at 137. Let's start on Uncle Creepy's side. We've said it all season. This is a very lucky team.
Shall we go to the ship, right?
Yeah, we could.
Man, we going to the ship. We going to the ship. What? 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 We going to the ship.
One team who has repeated his run, and that's Jordan, who lost out by 3 points last year from a title, making it back-to-back years incredibly impressive and incredibly difficult to do, as he has gone on massive winning streaks this year. At 2 different points of the season, really impressive for Jordan. And then we also have Jonathan Turner. They Call Me Toby, who finished 2-13 last season, number 9 out of 10 teams last year. Got 2 first-round picks, has made a few really key moves in trades, drafted well, and has put himself now in a position to where not only can he win, but this thing is going to be, I think, rather close. If once we look at the projected scores on Sleeper, I don't expect this to be a runaway by any stretch of the imagination for either team. And we'll break down this matchup in just a little bit, but before we
It's crazy. It really is crazy. To be perfectly honest, when I made that trade with Kyler, like, I thought that those pieces being added, as well as the draft picks that I had for this year's draft, would put me in a solid spot to kind of continue the rebuild. I had no idea Jalen Hurts would have the type of year he had. Like, I've believed in him for a long time, but obviously he was kind of the main reason. And then, a couple other trades that I made, although I'm a little nervous now about having to potentially deal with that Saquon Barkley trade now here in the championship game. So, yeah, I didn't expect to be where I am, but I did expect to be better, I guess, than 2-13, which is not all that difficult.
One thing that you did that you can look back to and say, I think this is what really put me on a different trajectory. What would that move, or what would those moves be?
I think the first thing is not overthinking sits and starts. For the last couple of years, especially in this league, because you want to win so bad, you want to compete, right, and be there week in and week out. I just was overthinking some of the weekly sits and starts, right, and trying to get into the matrix of fantasy football, and you're going to lose 9 times out of 10 doing that. So I just got a little bit more realistic with sits and starts, and the trades. dynasty is about living in the current, but also planning for the future, right? There's a very fine line there. And I would, again, even if Saquon whoops me and that trade comes back to bite me here coming up this weekend, I would still make that trade, right? So, it's the weekly sits and starts, and then you got to get lucky. You touched on it already, right? From looking at it last year, the ball's not going to bounce your way all the time. And it certainly has this year.
Me making trades, it's not like a couple people in our league where, they make a trade and it looks obvious. And it's more of a trade that's beneficial for both parties. And so that's what I'm all about. I've made plenty of trades that have been beneficial for both parties. In my opinion, the trade that I made on draft night with Matt, getting rid of Michael Pittman, that's tough. He's a really good player. I know he's had an off year this year, but I think he's somebody that's going to hang around for a while. He just looks like an NFL wide receiver. So if he can get a quarterback that's hanging around for more than just a season, I think that he takes off. And then obviously I took that and flipped that into Ken Walker, who's been huge for me this year. Treylon Burks was drafted there. I've traded him and another draft pick, Rashad White, for Chris Godwin, and got my Josh Jacobs back. So just making a lot of moves that have really paid off towards the end of the year. I mean, I'm on I think an 8-game winning streak right now. So definitely sticking with some of the guys and not trading somebody like Saquon for like 5 second-round picks and, stuff like that I've been offered for him. It's been pretty good, I mean, hey, listen, 4 second-round picks and Duvernay, if you want that for Saquon Barkley, go for it, enough about that. I love poking fun at Jake. I know that he's I know 2 things about Jake. I know that he poops a lot and he's been around a lot of semen. So love the dude. Think he's been a great person to have in our fantasy league this year. Dead serious about that.
Last year, how much pressure are you putting on yourself for winning this week? Because is there any pressure that you might win second again and kind of almost start becoming the Buffalo Bills of the Fire Things Club fantasy?
Yeah, man, that is very rough to think about. If I haven't even thought about if I lost. I feel like I am the heavy favorite. So, yeah, there's a little bit of a pressure as far as having my team not choke on me because I can't play the game. But at the same time, I think that I've got enough guys to beat him. It's just kind of hoping that it happens. I guess I think I'm really in a good spot. So we'll see what happens. Best of luck.
What's your prediction, Jordan? What do you think what happens this week?
Well, I don't know what the spread is, but I'll go ahead and say that I think I win and cover whatever the spread is. So I'm really, I think I'm taking it this time. I went from missing the playoffs, having like the second pick in the draft or something like that my first year, and then making the playoffs my second, and then runner-up my third, and I think that 4 times a charm. We're gonna bring it home. That trophy has got a spot right over here in this house.
Man. Well, one thing is for certain, it is not staying at Kyler's place.
It's not staying in Georgia. That's what's really cool too.
Well, JT moved to Georgia. So,
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. So wait, but yes, it is finding a new home this week, and it could land in the hands of Mr. Jordan Smithline. Any last thoughts? Anything you'd want to say to either JT or the league before we head off and you prepare for championship week this week?
Yeah, I think my team has an average age of like 26.25. So I just want to say to the league and Jake, like, I'm here to stay. I'm a force to be reckoned with.
I like it.
I know that I'm carrying 3 quarterbacks right now, but you will never see that again. So.
Woo! Well, that took a lot longer to put together than I ever anticipated. I think I bit off a little bit more than I could chew, but I was committed. I was committed to doing it, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. A lot of fun conversations, interviews, power rankings, rundowns, you name it. I tried to cover it in there and try to cover as many owners and storylines as possible. And that does it for our 2022 season. Stay tuned. We will try to have an awards show. It'll be Jordan and I doing awards for our 2022 Finer Things Club season. But that is a wrap, y'all. I want to say congratulations again to both Jordan Smithline, the champion of our 2022 season, and JT, as they call me, Toby, going from 2-13 in 2021 to second place, just barely losing in the championship game in the 2022 season. Phenomenal job to the both of you. Jordan going back-to-back seasons in a championship game, finally taking his rightful place as the champion of our season. So congratulations, Jordan. As we head into the off season, a couple things I want to point out. You got to pay your $50 league fee in order to begin trading, but trading does start effective immediately once you pay the $50. 6 owners have already paid that, so you can start trading now. Waivers do lock, and I've already locked and will not reopen until the first week of the 2023 season. So it's just trading right now that is open, but it is open to those who pay the league fee. Second piece of policy or process here, information to talk about is get your league proposal changes, your requests in to me here in the off season. A couple of owners have already submitted what they would like to see voted on. We have a really fun poll season in our off season that spices things up a little bit. We'll probably do that around the NFL draft time or shortly before the NFL draft, where we'll vote on some changes that we want to see in our league. It might be small changes like procedural type of things, or it might be big changes like scoring or payouts and things of that nature. But send those my way, and I'll accumulate them, and then we'll vote on them in the off season. Thank you guys so much. We joke a lot in our chat, and I love our chat, and it is, you're gonna make fun of me, but it is a bit of a brotherhood of sorts. I see you guys as friends, even though I don't see a lot of you regularly or at all for that matter. Kind of see everyone as all the owners in this league as friends. So keep it up in the chat. I look forward to talking to you guys throughout the year. Pitchers and catchers report here shortly. So Braves baseball is coming, and although it's sad to be done talking about fantasy football, at least for a little while, there's so much more to talk about. Grocery stores, grocery store battles, college football, baseball, life, Super Bowl party, whatever it may be. We'll be talking about it for sure in the chat, but I just want to say thank you to all the owners in this league. You guys make it what it is. This is the greatest fantasy football league on planet Earth, and it's because of everyone here and the camaraderie that we have. And truly, we joke a lot, but I know at the end of the day, it's all in fun, and we all are there for each other. So thank you guys again for this amazing season. Thank you for letting me be your commissioner. I hope everyone has a great week, a great off season, and we'll talk soon.
Where'd you get that matching Benz with them windows tinted? Who them girls you be with when you be riding through? Man, I ain't got nothing to prove. I paid my dues, breaking the rules and shake fools while I'm taking the cruise. Tell me who's your...
Hey, everybody, it's me, Mickey Mouse.